From the Middle is a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode number 277 of From the Middle. We are three middle class guys living in the middle of America, in the middle chapters of our lives, with points of view somewhere in the middle. This week, we kick off with some discussion about Christmas decor at the malls during the holiday season, which we love. A little bit of political discussion that's not really political, more so about the community aspect of Election Day, which is a ton of fun. We talk about the ever important pizza topping discussion and something new that we're really intrigued by and hope you'll weigh in on. And then we talk a little bit about some of the things that we're streaming and watching because we've been having a great time. We think you'll love this episode. Corey's not here, but Kendall and I still have a great time. Check it out.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it?
You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved. From the Middle after dark over here.
So I know when this episode drops, we're going to be like right in the thick of election discussion. And I have a question for you that has nothing to do with that. So if the world is spinning around us as this episode releases, that's not what I want to talk about. So we went yesterday, Bree and I went to a doctor's appointment for her. And on the way back, we decided to go to Polaris Fashion Place, which, if you're not from Greater Columbus or Ohio, is one of two nice malls in Central Ohio. And so we decided we were going to go have a early dinner. And we happened to park. Typically, we park outside of the department store Von Maur. And we walked into Von Maur we decided we were just going to kind of walk around the mall for a little bit and then go eat. And then Von Maur has nice restrooms. So we figured we would use the restrooms on the way out.
Not a bad reason to park at Von Maur. Yeah.
Yeah, just decided we would use the restrooms on the way out. So we did all of that. But I bring that story up for a reason. If you've not been in that Von Maur, probably most of them, it really hasn't changed in a very long time. And they already had all their holiday decor up, their Christmas decor. And it looked really nice. Although the store is a bit outdated and it feels like it's very much a 90s this little sort of 90s bubble inside. The holiday decor is nice. And it's also nice that they have their little pianist there playing music, who I think his name was John. I saw on the sign, was just playing away. And so my question for you is, in a world with so much online shopping, I know you're a big holiday guy. Is there any bit of the sort of holiday shopping, mall decor, department store, Christmas nostalgia? Does any of that appeal to you as a big Christmas guy? Do you walk through places like Macy's and Von Maur when they're like decked out and feel like this is kind of nice? Like this kind of takes me back
Absolutely, my
to
friend.
my childhood.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the other nice mall in Central Ohio is Easton Town Center, which I happen to live very close to. And I definitely at least once every year, like I go for a drive through Easton Town Center. And for people who are familiar with Easton or with other like upscale outdoor themed malls, that's what Easton is. And so driving through like the streets in and about the mall is obnoxious otherwise, but I like to do it around Christmas because you're driving through like tunnels of lights and things and it's magical.
Yeah.
And I totally love to go into a store. It doesn't even have to be that fancy, just to see like Costco putting up like having their Christmas trees out in the front of the store. That excites me.
Poinsettias on sale. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it all. I love that department stores typically go all out, like sort of like the big name ones like Macy's, like you said, and Von Maur and others. I'm all about it. I wouldn't say that I specifically go shopping because those things happen.
Right.
However, I do very much appreciate them and they make me feel happy when I am in the presence of such things.
Exactly. And I know I was just with Corey, who's not on this week, and He was commenting on he sort of flippantly said, "Normally it bothers me when people put out their holiday decorations so early." But he's like, I don't know that it bothers me anymore. And I looked over at him and I said, sometimes when the world feels heavy, it just feels good. It can be encouraging for some people. And I don't think that means we can't still stop and celebrate Thanksgiving, as we've discussed many times.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's just sort of like having some dessert before you actually eat your entree. You're still going to enjoy the entree. You're just going to have some dessert before. And so that's kind of how I was feeling. It had this very like all the, like the jingle all the way kind of vibes, like all the movies that are holiday themed that had clips from malls. And doesn't mean malls aren't facing some legitimate problems with all the online purchasing, but we were kind of in the same boat. It just had this really nice nostalgic feel. We don't go there just to walk through for the decorations, although some people might go to malls now just for sort of the experience of it and less so for the shopping of it these days. But it was nice. It felt like a nice, like, yeah, this is. I remember doing this a lot as a kid with parents this time of year. And now it's just like buy a bunch of stuff online and have it all shipped and then wrap it. And so it's nice to go like, what are some of the things we can go to the mall for that are maybe local and we can enjoy that
absolutely ambience. I love the idea of maybe we're recording this on election day and it just feels like everything is just so heavy. And I think it would be a good prescription for everybody in this country to at some point within the next week go to a mall for the reason, even though I might do this, just for you can go in and you can be like, find something that is fun that you remember, that you can say, oh, all is not lost. And I remember this. Mm-hmm. This feels good. Like there are still some things that are as good as they used to be. And just go in and feel that and experience that. That is the homework for everybody this week. Find a shopping mall, or if you don't have that, find a Costco or a Walmart and just hang out in the Christmas section. I was at Meijer today and they were setting up their Christmas stuff. Just go hang out in there for a little bit. Even if it's a little too early for you, I think it might do something good for your soul.
Yeah. Go to Hobby Lobby, and they've got a big Christmas section, and Chick-fil-A, not on Sunday. Don't go on Sundays. But go enjoy those. Those are a couple other places. Yeah. Hobby Lobby has a nice mix of decor if you're into that kind of thing. I agree. It was really nice. It was cool. We were already heading there. We were going to go have dinner at one of the places attached to the mall, so it just kind of made sense. And the pianist there just doing his thing and playing some music was really pretty, which I think is kind of specific to Von Mar at this point. I don't know anybody else that has like live music playing in the store. It felt good. It felt like we had just put out our holiday decorations. My wife wanted to put them out after Halloween. And so it just felt like a nice segue from us having put up some stuff around the house to going out and having a nice meal and enjoying that. So yeah, it was fun. It was a nice time. Also, another one, if you're in the mall, when the Apple Store folks go from their normal colored shirts to the red ones, that's another way. That's another way for you to know it's Christmas time, because it's just bright, cheery red shirts all over the Apple Store.
There you go. I love it.
That's awesome. So that was my big question. A nice lighthearted one. Go enjoy your local malls and maybe spend a little bit of money too. Help keep the stores around, but go enjoy your local malls and enjoy the decorations. I'm sure they're the same ones they've put out for the last 20 years, but here they are still doing it. So we applaud them for the effort.
Yeah. So speaking of election day, we're gonna go. We teased with something else, and then now this. We're not going to get political. I'm just curious what people's election experiences have been this year. I know that the numbers were way up on people voting early and people voting absentee, but they still weren't the majority. And so that means a lot of people still out at polls, and we could have, just like we did in 2020, we could have another like crazy record turnout possibly this time around. We'll see what happens. I can tell you my firsthand experience. I did vote in person. and I took my mom to go vote in person as well. And I was telling Dillon that even though they and I live in the same neighborhood, we are in different precincts. And so that means like I have always at my polling location walked right in and voted every single time. This time I was at my precinct for about 45 minutes, which is a lot less than what I gather a lot of people have had to do, but it surprised me. So I did that and then drove my mom to her place and waited an hour there uh, at that spot. And then was like rushing home because everything took way longer than I thought it was, and had to get on with other things for my day. And uh, so, but it was good to see that many people out voting. I don't know if I was out at a different time than I normally am. I don't think I really was. Uh, so from my perspective, it just felt like there was more turnout this time than others. Um, Dillon, you had more forethought than I did. What was your experience?
Yeah, I almost always do absentee ballot, and we take it when we're done. We take ours directly to the drop box at the local board of elections and put it in their drop box, which they come out hourly and get those ballots out to keep those keep the ballots secure. And so we did ours weeks ago, and different people have different rhyme and reason for why they do what they do, which is fine. Ultimately, it's great that people are voting. For me, I like to be able to have the ballot in front of me with my phone and sit at my dinner table and actually look up candidates' websites and go to Ballotpedia and to go to some of those places and read through language. And when ballot measures are complex, some of them are poorly worded, some of them are intentionally poorly worded. It's nice to be able to, pull up some newspaper articles trying to explain, and videos of experts trying to explain what the actual issues are and who the candidates are. And so that's always my thing. I usually have an idea before the absentee ballot comes in, but then usually I'll sit down with the ballot and my phone or an iPad for a couple hours and just pull up resources. And that it's just for me. That works best. And that's what we've done for the last handful of elections. But so we sent ours in weeks ago. Um, we dropped it in the box. I went back on the website the next couple days and made sure that it was received and would be counted and everything looked good. And so it was sort of all the last couple weeks worth of ads were just like, blah, I already voted. I'm done. It just doesn't matter to me anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I mentally I could move on knowing that I was just waiting for the actual day and the counting and all of that stuff. So everyone has a different thing, and some people like absentee and some people don't. Some people like in person or early voting in person. Ultimately, I think what matters is just people vote and feel like they can be informed enough to go engage. And I'll be curious. I agree. I'll be curious to see how people feel like things went. But a lot of the early reports seem to be, especially in our area, but probably lots of places, longer than normal wait times seem to be the general sentiment. Especially, I think Morse Road for Columbus, Ohio, has one of the bigger early voting is one of the bigger early voting locations. Was pretty backed up. So
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that sentiment quite a few places.
I think it's kind of a cool environment to vote in person on the day of with your precinct, because it's you see people and you recognize people because it's a relatively small group of people, especially when you have kids and you start like recognizing the same groups of parents at the kid events and things like that. And so it's like it feels like you and your neighbors are coming together to do this thing, which I think is really cool. Like the guy who lives across the street from me, his name is Ron, and like it was like or Robert, got his name wrong. I saw him, and it's great to see him and shake his hand, say, "Hey, how you doing? Good day. I got here long line, huh? Yeah, crazy." It was fun. I was reading about the history of democracy in the United States, and the first handful of years of public elections going on in this country, and how cool of a time that was for our nation. Um, it was this whole novel idea that like me a regular citizen has a say. I get to actually cast my vote and it actually is going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it was a definitely liberating feeling for everybody. And it had election day was like a holiday, and it was a joyous day. It wasn't a can't wait to get this over with day. It was everybody was happy to do it. That was a part of it. The communities and even the people who, couldn't vote, they were still there and around it. And the air was still one of like, this is a really cool novel thing that we get to do. And people would bring, it became a thing that people started bringing cakes, and it would like in the center of the town where everybody was showing up to vote, there was like just cakes and desserts, like a smorgasbord of cakes that people would bring to celebrate. And so the idea then of like the election day cakes became a thing, and people came expecting to like eat cake while they were voting. That became a tradition. And I recently read about a guy who started a movement trying to get people to bring back election day cakes around polling places. I am 100% behind this idea. He actually has developed a coalition of people all over the country. He's got a handful of places of people who are committed to baking cakes, bringing them to polling areas, being 100 feet away from the entrance or whatever it is they have to do. They are apolitical. They are just trying to say, let's celebrate this thing together. And do you know about this cake tradition that used to be a thing? We kind of think it'd be cool if we brought that back. So
yeah,
I love that idea. We need to make cakes next year.
Yeah, I love that idea. Maybe we can eventually open it up to other desserts, but as long as their slogan isn't "Let them eat cake," that's a historical joke. If you don't like it, I understand, but if you don't understand, you should Google it. Anyways, that's a great idea. Maybe there could be a cake party, and that could be part of their platform. Is like we're going to make cake again.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun. To your point, though, the community aspect I think is important because people have said, regardless of what side you're on of these issues, we all have far more in common than we have different. We all just want some security. We want to make a home and food and to take care of our families and, to be able to make enough to provide. And I think that's most of what most of us care about. And I think the community aspect is important in the sense that, you get to see your neighbors out there, all of which mostly just care about the things that you do, and you're all just trying to get out there and do the best you can with the options available. And so I do think that's important, and I totally understand that aspect of it. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, it does. It has, for me, it just feels like when you're on the outside and you're taking in news and reading articles and seeing the commercials and all of that stuff, it's kind of isolating in a weird way. It just feels like you're being bombarded. And then, but you go into the voting area and none of that stuff exists in the polling location. Instead, what exists is a bunch of familiar faces. And it feels different. You feel like, for me, I feel like even if I'm voting differently from these people, or if that person I know is voting differently from me, I'm glad to see them there.
Yeah.
Like it's a different feel. It makes election day feel different. It's not a me against anybody. It's not an us against anybody. This is my neighborhood. Right. And we're coming together and we're all casting a ballot. And it's not that it doesn't matter to me what other people are voting for, but it's also not the most important thing. Like even, you know what, I even go so far as to say like not voting is perfectly okay in my world. I don't subscribe to that. If you don't vote, you don't get to have an opinion. Like I'm not that person. Like,
yeah,
choosing not to vote can also be an intentional choice, which is perfectly fine. But because again, that's not the most important thing. It really isn't.
Yeah, and I agree with the sentiment. Like, I think you can not vote and still have an opinion. Although I understand why people make that point. They're ultimately just trying to say you might not care about voting, but voting is still important if you can bring yourself to do so. Because I think there's another saying, you don't have to take interest in politics, but politics will take an interest in you. obviously implying that like people are going to legislate things that will affect you whether you vote or not. So at least be aware that your life will change whether you choose to engage this thing or not, one way or the other, for better or for worse. Legislation will keep happening that will keep affecting everyone. So yeah, I think it's fine if people don't. I think people should. I think it's something that a lot of people have fought and died for us to have the ability to do. And so I would hope that people would take it seriously. But I also think that it's probably better that if you can't spend even a little bit of time to do a little thoughtful research ahead of time, I wouldn't go in there just to circle bubbles, or fill
Right.
the bubble.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like the message, I think, should be like, if you think people should care, then, which I also agree that people should care, but they're not my enemy if they don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's the message shouldn't be you have more moral value because you went in and pulled a lever. The message should be you have more, not necessarily moral value, but the message should be what I want you to do is be engaged and then vote.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, the responsible thing to do is to try to educate yourself enough to go vote. And if you can't for whatever reason, then I also understand that you don't want to go in and just flippantly fill out circles and think that is helpful. So I totally agree. And I think the community aspect is important. And regardless of what goes on, I think as long as we can all see that our neighbors are much more aligned with us than we realize, none of the discussion is worth losing good relationships over.
Exactly. I was hearing a guy talk about this kind of thing, and he was like, we used to have sort of this informal contract with each other that, like, I can disagree with you on something and still like you, still get along. It's that we don't do that anymore. Like, I can still hear what you think and think it's the wrong thing to think, but not villainize who you are.
Yeah.
And not define you by your vote. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah. And I don't think the message from my point, I agree. And I don't think the message from my point of view isn't that, because some people would say in response to that, well, those people are using extreme rhetoric, and I'm not going to be civil with people that are so extreme. I hear that point. I think the point we're making is let's reduce all the extreme rhetoric so we can get back to reasonable differences anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I think bring like, let's up the civility and lower some of the extreme rhetoric, and hopefully that helps in the future. It helps me as I think through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cake answers all of these things.
Cake and pie. Do you think the cake party would be open to other desserts too, or is it like?
I'm also not much of a cake fan. I'm much more of a pie guy, and so absolutely, if I'm in charge, it's pies instead of cakes. But yeah, I'd be fine with the whole slew of desserts.
Yeah, we're going to use the word cake, but really we're open to any kind of sugary treats. It reminds me of a Brian Regan bit where he's talking about being in college and his new dorm mate or whatever. And the bit essentially is that the new roommate is from the East Coast. And he's like, hey, you want to split a pie? And they end up splitting half pepperoni, half pumpkin because Brian was confused. And so as long as we can open up to all desserts and potentially even pizza pie alongside the normal pie.
Exactly.
I think you got a real great party going on election day. You know what I mean?
Indeed you do. Well, you want to know who I voted for?
Who's that?
I voted for these guys. Our friends from the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hey, this is Grab and Brisket Podcast. Join us every Monday where we talk about the latest trends in barbecue, interviews with world top pitmasters, celebrity cooks.
Ooh, like Wee Man from Jackass.
And musicians.
Like Rich O'Toole?
So check us out. We do beer reviews, barbecue fails.
So many fires.
Dude, a lot of people just burn their houses down for no reason.
We also talk about cocaine hippos versus Meth Gators.
Learn how to make some tailgate gravy.
Altercations with Texas Rangers.
People throwing Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah, so check out grabthebrisket.com for podcast info, viral social media posts, and so much more.
Man, those folks are great. You know what I mean?
Wonderful.
Really great. What a show they put on over there at that show. Definitely go check it out and download every single one of their episodes 14 times because it'll help them and you'll enjoy it. Speaking of pies, I had just sent you and Corey a picture, and this is a great time to talk about pizza because he's not here. I had just sent you a pizza of something I had never considered before, and I'm kind of intrigued by the idea, and I think you were too. It was a picture of a pizza that I think was from some Canadian pizza shop where they had sliced the pepperoni like into little pepperoni strips, like teeny tiny little pepperoni strips, and I was intrigued by that. I can't believe it's not here or near us. Maybe it's in other parts of the US. I don't know anyone doing it near us, or at least I didn't. And as the more I thought about it, I thought I have a question, and then I'm gonna go to my next point. It got me thinking a little bit about cubed pepperoni and how we present that to children, but we don't take that seriously for adults for whatever reason. And I think I've got to go back and look. It might have been Marco's, the pizza chain Marco's
does this?
That just introduced, I think I got to find it, that just introduced like a sliced pepperoni. And I feel like I just saw it on the ad and I should have been prepared, but I just kind of remembered it. That it looks like they have the sliced pepperoni that we were just talking about. Either way, I'm intrigued by this. I think it would spread the flavor around, and I really want to try it now. And I kind of want to call my local pizza shop and see if they have it. But what was your reaction to the sliced pepperoni? And do you think that it's similar to the cubed pepperoni in any way? And if so, why do we seem to only market the little tiny little cubes of pepperoni to children? Now that I'm about it.
Okay. So the sliced pepperoni, which is if the visual of there, think like pepperoni floss scattered about a pizza. I think the correct slicing style would be julienne, so a julienne pepperoni. So they take like the whole pepperoni stick, and instead of cutting the log into round slices, they cut like probably like 1 inch to 2 inch slabs, and then julienne that like you're doing a julienne carrots or something.
Yeah,
I think coverage is obviously better.
Yep.
I think consistency bite to bite would obviously be better.
Right.
Unless you're talking about like a lot of Columbus style pizzas that are like the edge to edge and like the 150 pepperonis on a pizza, but that's like a layer of pepperoni, not just
right.
But for as far as what most pizza places do with pepperoni, I think you would get far more consistent flavor per bite. I think texture wise, it could be better. As well for people who like crisp pepperonis, but the pizza place doesn't have crisp pepperonis. I feel like the pepperoni would cook up better because more surface area. And texture wise I would think that julienne sliced pepperoni would be about the same as disc pepperoni from a texture bite situation. But I think that cubes would be far different. Not better or worse, but I think pepperoni cubes would be a different texture, a different chew.
Yeah.
And possibly less crisp, right? Which, again, might be your thing. But
might not be bad. Yeah.
It would be chewy pepperoni instead of crispy pepperonis.
I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know, maybe places around the U.S. do this already broadly, and we're just not aware of it. I think I can confidently say it's not a thing in and around Ohio where I've seen,
right,
which is where we're from. And I'd love to know if people have it near them, wherever they are. Do you prefer it? What are we not thinking about? Is it maybe there's things we're missing that it's even better than we think? Or maybe there's things we're missing that it's worse than we think and we don't know why. But there might be a crispy factor that, depending on how long it's baked, if you like crispy crunchy, it might be more so. And if you don't, you might not like it. but I'm gonna see if my local pizza place will do it. I'm gonna have to call and I'll probably describe it like an idiot and be like, I want it, but like shredded carrots on a
Yeah.
salad. So
Like potato sticks. I want my pepperoni to, like the can of potato sticks? Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Tell
that.
it- make the pepperoni look like potato sticks.
Yeah.
Now, if they're pulling out of a bag of pepperoni, they probably can't pull that off because now they're slicing discs into. But if they're cutting their own log of pepperoni, in theory, they should be able to do this for you.
I would think so. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? Like they have to grab stacks of pepperoni and slice it with a knife quick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could still ad hoc it. Like that's not the right word, but
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what the word is for doing that on the fly. Quick, what would a restaurant industry call a quick customization or a quick whatever that would be?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Before you put those pepperoni, I mean, you might annoy some people. You might end up with a little bit of saliva in your pizza, but I mean, if the pepperoni's on point, who cares?
Ad hoc, ham hock. Is there a is there a joke in there? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Anyways, I'd love to try it. And if you try it before me, you got to report back. And if other
Yeah.
people have tried this, yeah, I think your way of describing it's better. Because I was thinking like I was gonna have to call and say, like the shredded carrots on salad. Can you
Yeah.
cut the pepperoni kind of like that, like little shredded, little sliced? Maybe they have
Then
a
Julian,
vegetable cutter that would do
like
it for 'em.
like the way like Asian restaurants often cut their vegetables for stir fry,
Right.
like
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah. I think so. I think that's what I need to try. And I'm going to have to call them and they're probably going to go, dude, we don't do that here. Like,
Yeah, that's
they're like, I make $7.25 an hour to like,
you want me to spend 5 extra minutes on your pizza slicing up stacks of pepperoni, and that's not. I don't get.
rightfully so. I think their concern would be, I think the concern would be if this guy likes this, he's going to call back every week and try to do this now. And I don't, I don't want a recurring order where I have to like specially cut pepperoni for this dude.
But you could start a thing. Maybe they'll do it, and then they'll keep doing it because they've done it before, and then they'll get upset, and then other employees will get involved, and
yeah, maybe they'll add it to the menu.
Eventually that pizza place will buy the whatever machine that Canada invented.
Yeah,
that does this thing. So
the ad hocker.
Yeah.
It's an industrial ad hocker is what you need. Oh, hawker doesn't sound good there. But everyone
ad hocker is what they do to your pizza when you ask them to slice your pepperoni differently.
Well,
that is what they call it.
It's so much more moist than normal.
Yeah. This guy wants me to do what the pepperoni? This is going to be an ad hocker.
I don't know. He used the term ad hocker.
Did you add hocker to that pizza?
Some reference to Canada. I'm not sure what he was talking about. I think the play is okay. See if you.
I think this guy's Canadian. Spit his pizza.
I don't know. Just he seemed nice enough. He's probably Canadian. Just do it for him. I feel like the play might be next time I go in to pick up a normal pizza, say, "Hey, got a question for you. I saw this thing, and I didn't know if I wanted to try it. I wasn't sure if I could call in and just ask for it. If that was something you could do. If I called in the future and asked, would you do it? And if so, how would you want me to describe it to you on the phone so that you could understand what I'm asking for? Just slice strips of pepperoni. You want it ad hoc? Do you need it julienne? How am I supposed to describe this thing?
Here's what you do. You go in to pick up your pizza.
Yeah.
Without the special request.
Yep.
You bring a cutting board and a knife with you. And then you say, "Hey, can I buy a log of pepperoni?"
Yeah.
Because that is prerequisite here probably is they have to have a log of pepperoni.
Okay.
And then they give it to you. You stand there in the lobby at the counter, slice it up, put it in a Ziploc bag, hand it back to them, say, "Put this in the fridge. And then next week when I order my pizza, this is what I want on my pizza."
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think the potentially easier alternative if they won't do it is I typically will get a decent option around me is Boar's Head makes a sealed turkey pepperoni, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just packaged turkey pepperoni. I could do that, bring a pizza home, cut some up, and then throw it back in the oven for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
That on it, and it would probably be fine. We'll have to see if they'll do it. We'll have to report back. And if this is a thing near you, no matter where you are in the world, I really want to hear about it. I want to hear the pros and cons and what we might not be thinking of because I'm intrigued. I think the distribution would be a lot better. I'm not taking a bite of pizza with ripping off a whole pepperoni with it, when I didn't want to. I think it could be great. And I just want to experience something new on my pizza.
It's definitely worth trying. And anytime that we hear about a potential innovation to our local pizza, like I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe we'll find out why it never caught on here. But
Maybe.
we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Locals seem to like the edge to edge, like pretty thick layers of pepperoni. And so maybe that would seem blasphemous to local pizza shops, but I'm willing to put myself out there and ask the question. So
exactly. I mean, there's a lot of other disputes over like sausage and how sausage should be done on a pizza. Do you get like pinches pre-made? I've not tried it, but there are apparently a handful of places around here where they pre-cook sausage on a baking sheet and then they cut it into giant squares and you get giant square slabs of sausage. Does that make sense to you? It's almost like cut into like lunch meat kind of look, and then that gets put on your pizza. And apparently the places that are doing this, it's really good.
Interesting.
Because obviously they're making their own sausage and so everything is homemade, and then there's like the small crumbles, like if you just want like it's like a sprinkle of sausage, or do you want the big like meatball chunks of sausage?
Yeah. I don't think I want to know how the sausage is made, but I do think it's delicious. So
sausage is delicious.
As long as it's on the pizza, I'm a happy guy. Well, there we go. So I feel like we got our good. I think we'll have another pizza-ish themed episode here coming up soon. We've got a potential repeat guest in mind, but we'll save that. That'll be our little tease for a future episode. But in the meantime, we've been talking a lot about pizza and the election. What else is going on? Anything new going on with you guys?
Man, we might be getting into indoor soccer now with the kid who's into soccer. Sports aren't stopping. That's kind of what we're getting ourselves into here, which is fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
One of these days, the kids will learn how to drive, and everything will be good. But
yeah,
we've got another 6 years before that happens. But that's been. I mean, we've enjoyed recently the past couple of weeks with having no sports, and so things really died down for our schedule for the most part, with little spotty days here and there, and it's been good. It's been relatively low key in our house. I'm a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you just made a Dick's Sporting Good or Nike ad, like Parenthood. There is no off season. Dick's, this is, you're gonna live here, and that's just, it is what it is. So
yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think likewise. It's kind of that season where we did a couple camps this summer, and my daughter Finley, who's 6, wanted to do basketball winter camp again. So we're going to be starting that up very soon. And it's the time of the year, like a couple holidays and a handful of activities starts to make the calendar move pretty fast. So it's that time of the year. But I think that's why we wanted our Christmas stuff up. It's like relaxing. It's fun. It's out. It's done, at least on the inside, not the lights outside yet. But that part of it is over. And so we're just kind of excited to enjoy the holiday season. Whatever that entails, going to malls apparently and enjoying Christmas decorations, go to see some lights. But it does lead to the whole going back through all the holiday themed movies, which we've discussed on the podcast before, some of our favorites, and some of the things we enjoy there. So that'll be fun to talk about every year, as always. I have watched a few new things recently, and I don't know if we want to transition at this point to that segment. I feel good about some of the other fun stuff we've covered, but
yeah, I need to get pizza pretty soon now, so we should probably.
Yeah. There you go. I had to circle back though before I forget.
Mhm.
To I had talked a few times about Agatha All Along on Disney
Yeah.
Plus, which was a new series, and I just want to circle back to that now that the series is over. It didn't tank in the final two episodes. They were really great. It ended up being a really, really good series that no one was asking for, but it worked really well. And if it's essentially WandaVision Part Two, and there's going to be another series, Vision Quest. So WandaVision was about Wanda and Vision, and then this was about Agatha and some of the events of WandaVision as she kind of spun out as the villain. And then Vision Quest in the future will be back to Vision's story, and we don't know who's going to pop up in that. So that'll end up kind of being WandaVision Part Three. So we're gonna see that, but it was so good. It was a little bit darker, kind of like Harry Potter, Hocus Pocus, WandaVision type story. Really interesting. Some new characters. I'm blanking on the name of Catherine Hahn was so good as Agatha again. Just really, really great. And so I think the thing that I enjoy most about it is it sort of showed Marvel. It reiterated that if the stories are good, the story's well written, the actors are really good, and the characters are interesting, it doesn't have to be a huge budget show. They don't have to put $300 million
Yeah.
into a series. You can do a lower budget show that really works and resonates with people. And the fans have kind of liked some of the weirder shows. Like Loki was a little weird and cool,
Hmm.
and WandaVision in this one. And so same with Moon Knight. Like it's showing them that like the weird shows kind of work.
Hmm.
The street level stuff is fun with Spider-Man and Captain America, and I don't think people will get rid of those like cool kind of action shows, but the weird shows work. And they don't
Hmm.
have to be a huge budget. Just write it well, get good actors, let them do their thing, and you can make a really cool show on a budget. So it was really good. If anyone wasn't sure if they wanted to watch it, if you liked WandaVision, check it out. If you haven't, but you want to go back, you don't know what you need to see for Agatha, just watch WandaVision. And you'll be more than fine to go from that and jump right into Agatha All Along. So that was really good. Wanted to circle back to that. I also just watched Tom Papa's new special on Netflix called Home Free. Have you seen that one yet?
No,
No,
but I'm happy to hear that it exists.
yes, yeah. For we talk about stand up frequently on the podcast. We all three of us enjoy a good stand up show, and it is very much Tom Papa all over again. I wouldn't say it's brilliantly better than his last one, but it's certainly no worse. So if you like the last handful of specials from Tom Papa, there's no reason you won't enjoy this one. I laughed out loud several times. Very funny. You know, he's always a little bit brash and a little bit edgy, but not too far out there.
He's not way out there. I think
Mhm.
most people would find him pretty manageable.
Absolutely. So, Home Free on Netflix just came out this year. Very good. If you like Tom Papa or you just want something different to watch once the kids go to sleep. And then I finally watched Axel F, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which was the follow up. Have you seen that one?
No.
So good. If you, I feel like it's been a bit, to be fair, it's been a bit since I've seen the original couple movies, but it felt just as good as the old Beverly Hills Cops movies. Really nice modern take, that sort of 80s action feel. They did a great job at just updating it just enough, but it still felt much really in line with the humor. And it's a little, there's quite a few F bombs in it because that's kind of the what those movies are, right? It's the action cop comedy movie. Um, Kind of like Top Gun, I guess is the way to say it, in the sense that like they played up on what worked in the 80s, but it
Hmm.
didn't feel cheesy. It felt like a nice modern reinterpretation of a classic.
They drew some bridges,
Yeah, yeah.
but but made a different story.
Little ad hoc and moist, but in a good way, kind of thing, And so they bridged nicely the things that worked well from the older movies, but I think modernized it in a way. And I don't know if that's been the internet's reaction. I really didn't watch it and then go look to see what the internet had to say, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. So if you're into those kind of movies, like it's not trying to win an Academy Award. It's a popcorn flick. It's meant to just be fun, and that's exactly what it felt like. It was a great nostalgia ride. Um, that felt really in line with just another iteration of what already worked in sort of a modern take. So I really liked it. I thought it was good and had a ton of fun watching Axel F. So if you're into that kind of thing, go check it out.
Very good. Do you feel like with Agatha All Along, are they drawing bridges to other things in the Marvel universe? Does it feel like they're trying to fill in canon at all with some of that stuff? I guess I'll be more curious about Vision. That's the one that is coming up soon, right? It's more
Vision
centered around
Quest.
him.
Yeah,
Vision Quest.
Yep.
I'll be curious about that one because Vision does have a role in other Marvel films other than WandaVision and that storyline. And I'm wondering if they're trying to make sure it all fits in the same universe, or if they don't really care so much about making sure that this fits in the rest of the whole big thing. It just needs to fit in this thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're trying to connect dots that way.
Yeah. I would say they are. But to use a sort of play off of the theme of WandaVision, of this fantasy within the little bubble that is Westview, it's not literally within the bubble, meaning the same city in that sense. It's not exclusively in the same place. What I mean is, it feels like it's playing within the similar bubble, but it's not grasping really far outside of the show to try to make connections. It does introduce a new character that will be important to other things, but it doesn't feel like it's reaching way over to the Avengers part of the story to try to pull in the Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that. It's not. It's kind of lives within the WandaVision bubble of story and plays in that space nicely, which obviously WandaVision had Vision in it. And so yeah, it feels connected, but pretty loosely, but not in a bad way. It just feels like it's more trying to just be the next bit of story after WandaVision. And technically, like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it is a continuation of that, but I wouldn't say you have to see that to make it make sense. You'll pick up enough context clues to be able to watch it without it. But so yeah, I think it's a bit of it's sort of yes to all. It is trying to connect to the broader story, but it's not really jumping. It doesn't feel like a fragmented story. Like, oh, well, now we've got to dedicate a little chunk of the episode to make it make sense to something else, and then have to pull it back into the story that we're doing.
So it feels kind of like I feel like with Star Wars, for example, like even with like Rogue One and Solo and those kinds of things, they're kind of not really detached from the rest of the universe.
Right.
It might be their own little story, and it's certainly a highlight of a small mark in time, but it's still very much connected to the rest of the franchise, even if it's not an episodic movie. And all of them were like that.
Yeah.
Versus something like Star Trek, where like there's newer modern spinoffs that like, yeah, they'll mention, though they might draw back to or whatever, some of the stuff from the Enterprise or whatever else, but they're not really part of that story per se. Some of the newer Star Trek stuff is like it's its own crew, it's its own mission. It doesn't counteract the rest of Star Trek. It still jives, but they don't feel like they need to draw the map.
Yeah. It probably lives somewhere in between, but if you're going off of like my gut reaction of how it feels more like your Star Wars analogy watching it than it feels like the Star Trek analogy.
Okay.
I think the part of it that makes it in the middle is now the MCU is so big. We've seen Eternals and we've seen stuff in space and we've gone back in time and we've got multiverse and so there's other dimensions that we've been in. And so it's like, it's very broad that way, but it still feels like it leans more towards the Star Wars experience of this is a story. It's a little pocket within this bigger thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And you get a sense more of that. And I think that's because I can say without really spoiling anything, they there's a reference to the fact that Wanda existed or exists.
Sure.
And so that she feels very integral to the whole Avengers plot and up through Thanos, and then was in Multiverse of Madness. So she feels like such a core character now that it has that, like, you know, there's this Imperial Star Destroyer up in space, even though it's not affecting what's happening in the Andor series or whatever.
Yeah.
So if that helps. But it feels like a pocket story within the greater.
Gotcha. Okay, so it does seems more like that. You know what I mean, though, with like Star
Yeah.
Trek. It's like Deep Space Nine is very much its own thing.
Right.
It doesn't walk against the grain of what the of other plot lines, but it's its own thing.
Yeah, it's within the universe, but and like Voyager's another example. They get thrown to a whole other quadrant of space. And so it's like
Right.
really
Yeah.
has nothing to do with anything that's happening crazy far away. And it's not the same people at all. And so yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I've got nothing new to report other than I enjoyed watching Jason Sudeikis on the Manning Cast this week. That was fun. As you can imagine, the Kansas City Chiefs are getting more primetime games than most other teams because of the great and powerful Patrick Mahomes. And so getting to learn who are Kansas City Chief fans via the Manning Cast, because that's who they try to have on. And so they've had Jason Sudeikis, they had Paul Rudd, a famous Kansas City Chief fan as well. Man, I can't reiterate enough. I want to see more of this kind of broadcasting. It's fun.
Yeah. And for anybody that doesn't watch, where do you watch that and how long is the format?
It's ESPN2. And so if you want to watch Monday Night Football, most weeks, I believe your options are you can watch the traditional broadcast on ESPN, or you can flip over to ESPN2 and watch Peyton and Eli's thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't watch a ton of NFL, but I do enjoy football enough. I can sit and really watch anybody if I have time. And although this week I don't bring it up much, but I'm for the NFL. I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, and they were the Sunday night game, so I actually got to watch them beat the Colts, which was fun. Um, and so I didn't think to flip. I guess I don't remember what network it was on. I don't know if it was on the Manning Cast or not, but I'm gonna have to try to sync one of those up. If there's a chance for me to check out the Manning Cast and potentially watch the Vikings, that would be extra fun.
Yeah. So Monday Night Football is what they do.
Okay.
So, and specifically that, and even then, it's only most weeks. It's not every week, but it's most weeks. So ESPN2 on Monday Night Football. If there's 2 Monday Night Football games, they'll be like the 8:30 one probably.
Okay. So yeah, I think the Vikings were on Sunday night, so that wouldn't have been it. But
wouldn't have been
call out Monday Night Football. I'll have to try to check it out sometime either way, because I can imagine the banter is just kind of good, more family friendly fun, and nice to follow along with.
Yeah, it's fun, and for anybody out there who appreciates to see football personalities emerge from players or coaches from the past, if you've always been curious about that, I'm intrigued every time like Tom Brady is now calling games, and like I always like to see that side of people. Bill Belichick is slated to be with the Mannings during the first half of all of the Manning casts, and it is so much fun, I feel, to see Bill Belichick in that atmosphere instead of what we're used to seeing. Like, we're used to seeing like angry old guy on the sideline, and then he's always pissed off at the media during pressers, and then now to see him like relaxed and hanging out talking football while watching a game is kind of funny. I like it.
Yeah. Good. Well, that makes it even more fun to try to catch that at some point. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's cool.
So, anything else?
That's it. I don't think there's anything else from my side. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out Artius, man. They've got amazing products. We're headed into the holiday season. You're going to need to inevitably buy gifts for people. And if you haven't used our promo code before, you can use promo code THEMIDDLE. It's artiusman.com. You'll save 25% off your first order. So it's a great time to load up, use the promo code, get a bunch of great gifts. They have all kinds of beard oils and skincare stuff and candles and bath products. And so tons of stuff. They're local to Columbus, Ohio area, and great people over there. They've been a great partner of ours. So you get a great discount. You're going to get great products. They make a sale. We have a little affiliated thing with Artius Man, so they help us out a little bit. And so it's win, 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 however many wins that is. So check out Artius Man. They're really, truly great, and we appreciate their partnership. And that's all I have. So next week, we'll have to have the insufferable Corey back, and we'll deal with putting up with him for one more episode. So hope you enjoyed this one. I'm kidding, by the way. He's my brother, and I love him. Send this to your friends and enemies. We'll hope they'll enjoy it. And everyone have a great week. Peace.